Hey everybody, it's Nisi. It's still your girl. We're just in a different location today. The background's a little bit darker. It might get a little lighter. We don't know how this is going to work out. But anyways, we have Am I the Asshole stories. We've got 4 of them for you, so let's just get into it. Okay guys, our first story is Am I the Asshole for reporting a woman to HR who misunderstood my comment and getting her fired? I'm going to let you know off the bat, my feeling with HR is a little different. HR is there to protect your company. It's there to make your environment safer. You should always have someone in HR. There should always be an HR that's good, I should say, or an HR that's like there for y'all. But what you shouldn't have is a fear of talking to HR. Now, not every HR is going to look out for you, but that's where you cover your own butt. And when you go to them, you get signed documentation and saying, I went here, this is what we talked about, this is what a thing, and then you keep it for the longevity of your stay as that establishment. You keep every copy of whatever HR puts in their computer. So that way, if they say, oh, down the line, hey, this is what happened, and you're like, no, we had this conversation, I have my document, that's not what happened, that's not what was said, I came to you before, you have your butt covered. So, HR is there for the people, but it's not at the same time. So, it is what it is. Remember to cover your own butt every single time. Don't let nobody tell you differently. But HR is a difficult place to be. And that's coming from a former manager, someone who's gone to HR before about, upper management, coworkers. HR, just make sure you get that document and cover your butt. Cover your butt. Don't make me say it again. Cover your butt. Anyways, it's a throwaway account. And the throwaway account's name is downtown underscore aspect underscore 3873. Okay, onto the story. I, 32 male, have been together with my girlfriend for 7 years, and we're really happy together. My girlfriend works in the service industry, and I was raised with 3 sisters by a single mom. I'm all too well aware of the creeps that women have to deal with on a daily. I try to be vocal with other guys, when other guys cross the line and stick up for them, like I would my sister. I love a guy who defends women. I love it. Thank you, thank you. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I work in a specialized industry where the reputation is everything and have built a pretty good one over the years. 3 months ago, a new woman, 24 female, let's call her Kristen, started working in our central office. She made it uncomfortably clear that she was interested in me by always standing too close and finding reasons to touch me often. I looked at how she was with other people to be sure it wasn't in my head. It wasn't. She always was touching my arms, picking something off my shirt, etc. I made a point of talking about my girlfriend frequently and showed no affection back. I told her I could tell she was disappointed when when I said I finally said I needed a little more personal space and started to keep my distance. It was a little of a tongue twister there. I apologize. I didn't talk about it at work, but I updated my girlfriend daily. Kristen was always lurking around my cubicle trying to listen into my conversation, but when she started to insert herself into our discussion, I found reasons to walk away. Setting boundaries, talking to your girlfriend, being open about the situation. I love it. I love it. This guy is like a walking green flag. Kudos. Okay. Kristen cornered me over a little over a month ago in the break room and told me in front of 2 other women that I made her feel very uncomfortable the day before. Kristen said she overheard me insult her and other women's appearance with other guys from the office. I had no idea what she was talking about, and me and the other women that have known me for a long time kind of laughed it off. It was really awkward. I walked out after telling her I've never said anything like that, and I was shocked and just wanted to get out of there. One of the women approached me after this and told me what Kristen shared with them after I left. She said me and the other guys were complaining about that it wasn't fair they had to work with her while the other women were so much harder. After some confusion, I thought about it and understood. The day before, a group of us, men and women, discussed how the other side of the office was getting better, bigger air conditioner, was getting a bigger air conditioner, when the other side that was in front of the larger windows with direct sunlight was much hotter. It wasn't fair that one side was much hotter and it is. Okay, misconstrued words, not necessarily about people, but the office room itself. I really felt terrible because even though she was eavesdropping and misunderstood that it would be a shitty thing to overhear, I immediately went over to her desk and explained what happened. She looked angry and said, "Whatever you say," and kept shuffling papers around. Later that day, I started talking low to a woman near her and staring daggers at me. The woman she was talking to looked surprised and watched me. That night, after discussing it with my girlfriend, she told me I needed to go to HR. I didn't want to at first because I don't want any record of me doing something I didn't do, but she convinced me that things like this don't go away and it could blow up my reputation. The next day, I talked to HR. I asked that they facilitate a conversation between me and Kristen. When HR asked me what about how we work together, she saw me hesitate and try to talk around it. After some coaxing, I did tell her some of the behaviors towards me and made sure I said she had never crossed the line. At the end of the day, she called me in to follow up, and she appreciated that I was proactive because the situation resolved positively and to let her know if anything else came up. She said she didn't think there would be any more issues. I didn't get any more details than that. I don't know how I feel about that. I understand, HR handled it or whatever, but I don't like that they wouldn't like you're the initiator, you should have more details than what you were given, in my opinion. But that might be all HR felt comfortable telling you. And if HR talked about it and said it was handled, I would still be cautious. I wouldn't, say everything is done. Okay. I thought everything was okay until later that night I got a call from a number I didn't know. I let it go to voicemail and listened to the message. It was Kristen screaming at me for trying to gaslight her and trying to make her out to be the problem. She said she knew all my guy friends would cover for me and I may have everyone else fooled, but she knew who I really was. My girlfriend and I talked about it and agreed that she had some really issues, really big issues, or some issues, and that I should send a message to HR that night and avoid her tomorrow. I got to work later in the day after a morning consult outside the office and walked in on Kristen angrily talking to a few people about the meeting with HR she had that morning, saying I was so immature and a creep. I turned around and walked away. She realized I hurt her and followed me, begging to please not tell HR she was just talking about the meeting. She said she wasn't supposed to talk about it. She begged me and cried. She said she needed a job and had no power in the situation and it wasn't fair. She begged me to do the right thing. That did give me a pause because I realized in this moment she really believed she heard me say those things about her. It's also occurred to me she may be reacting to someone who did this to her in the past. I just ignored her and called my girlfriend. She agreed that there were probably some deeper things going on, but she said I had to report it. It was not going to stop. She was damaging my reputation. I sat at my desk, recorded every detail of what I heard her say, and asked for support to resolve this. Kristen was let go that night. She sobbed on her way out. It was all around terrible. I found out later after HR first spoke to Kristen, they had immediately called a few people in to ask about the original conversation about one side of the office not being hot. There were men and women that they spoke to. They had a clear picture of what happened and explained to Christian and warned her not to malign my reputation with gossip that was not true. They also warned her against contacting me before she sent the first voicemail. They thought she understood it was a misunderstanding and they were very surprised and angry that she called me. That night she was let go. She yelled at everyone, told them I was a pervert and probably a rapist. Um, And if you don't know what a rapist is, look up SA when it comes to forcibly putting yourself on another person, because that is what's happening. That's not his reputation, so let's not spread that, but that's the word that was used in the story. There's only one woman who was Kristen's friend at work who thinks I'm a huge butthole. She said Kristen was young and vulnerable. I ruined her life instead of just letting it go after apologizing. Kristen apparently didn't even get a job interview in our field in the area because everyone knows about this. Gossip spreads fast. Everyone else in the office was glad she was gone. I guess there were some other uncomfortable things she was doing with other people. I don't know all the details, and at first thought we all dodged a bullet. But this one woman not stopped trying to make me feel guilty, and it's working. She says I'm denying responsibility by saying I talked with my girlfriend. She talks about male privilege, and the thing is, she's right that males do have much more privilege, and women aren't really believed enough. I agree with her about all of that, but I don't really say those things. She says every man says that. She brings it up every time I see her. Did I make a big deal out of nothing and ruin some young person's career? Am I part of the real problem? Problem I claim to fight against? Okay, so you know how you went to HR about the first girl harassing you? You need to go to HR about the second girl harassing you. Kristen might have been young and dumb and not understanding social cues of when you say, you talk about your girlfriend and you're like, I have a girlfriend, and you're very much talking about her whenever she's around, or you're leaving conversations and she didn't get the hint. And then when she overhears something and you go to her before going to HR to try to like handle the situation and be like, yo, I didn't say this. This is what happened. This was a story, and she doesn't believe you. Then HR pulls her in. That's that girl's delusion. That's that girl's headache. That's that girl's problem. What you should not do is take that upon yourself. You are fine in that situation. It's not you. It's 100% her. Now, you covered your butt. You went to HR. You know HR understands what's going on in this situation. Now you have another young woman harassing you about the same situation, but from a different perspective of now, oh, all this happened. You had to say it. Why don't you just take accountability? You don't have anything to take accountability for. You didn't do anything wrong. But what you can do and what you should do is go ahead and talk to HR and be like, so she has a friend here and she's now harassing me. And at the end of the day, harassment from women, we can put on the puppy dog eyes, we can make ourselves cry, make ourselves pouty, whatever. Women as a whole, and I'm not saying it's every woman out there, I'm not saying every woman, is this, but they can and are probably better at manipulation on a lot of emotional levels because we are emotional creatures. So we know how to bring out your emotion, regardless if we're talking to a male or female. There's a reason why we are nurturers, because we understand how to emotionally comfort. That's who we are. So she's emotionally manipulating you to feel bad so that way you can go to HR and be like, oh, why did you fire her? I didn't mean to. Da, da, da. Don't feel guilty. You did what you had to do to cover your reputation, cover your butt. And if you need to go someplace in the future, you're not having this nasty trail of you being a rapist and a creep and all this other stuff that this girl is trying to ruin your career for because you weren't attracted to her, because you didn't leave your girlfriend for her. That's how this all started. She said, oh, you're going to keep rejecting me, And now I misheard a conversation about you talking about hotter women than me. You're rejecting me again. Some women can't handle rejection, and that's just it. Some men can't handle rejection, and sometimes that's it. You were doing what you were supposed to do. So don't take it as you didn't do it. So, you have an update for us. So, for me, you're not the asshole. We will get to the comments later, but right now, you're not the asshole. You do have an update. For everyone saying to report her friend, I really don't want to. I really think she believes she's speaking up for her friend and in the right. I don't want to be known as the guy who runs to HR whenever there's a disagreement. I think people know she's wrong, so I'm less worried about that. I don't want to see anyone get fired. I'm sort of relieved, but she left crying. She looked really desperate, and I sat there blankly. I don't feel vindicated. It's a shitty to think someone's going through her whole life thinking is me as a bad guy. Update number 2. For those who said HR must have had her on their radar to move so quickly, hit the nail right on the head. I don't know everything because everyone is still kind of tight-lipped, but After hiring her, there were things that came about, problems with the company she transferred from. Her great references probably were just trying to get rid of her. She's also been to HR over things before this. I'm not sure what to think about all this now. I thought that it was all handled really well, but I'm pissed that no one was allowed to talk about anything, and I also wasn't supposed to talk about anything. There are legal reasons probably, but to put everyone in a kind of dangerous situation. Plus, I was told it was resolved positively, when she didn't know it wasn't. I think now she asks about how things were between us because she already knew. Also, since she was only there for 3 months, she was still a probationary hire, which I didn't realize we started doing. So many of your comments made me realize I'm being an idiot for not reporting what's happening now and could be putting future people at risk. I'm going to talk tomorrow about her friend. Some of you suggested recording her on my phone, and I was just going to do that, but I looked it up and I can't use it because my state is something called a two-party consent state. Basically means I can't record someone without their consent. Last, I want to explain to people who said I seemed like I was trying to hard sell myself as the good guy and obviously not the asshole, but there is some truth to that. I should have known better, but I did some stupid things when I was younger, and my view of things changed a lot when something bad happened to a woman in my life. Not my story to tell, but I've seen what happens when they aren't believed. So yeah, some was some was me concerned that this would be ammunition for assholes, and some was guilt over wondering if my career would have been ruined if someone overheard me and reported me when I was younger. Probably did say things like that at work. One thing that's became clear to me is that I wouldn't have gone to HR if not for my girlfriend. I guess I thought of it kind of like tattling or like running to mom. Until I read through all the comments here saying the same thing, that was still part of me thinking about what's currently going on. Feels stupid to write that, but it's true. This whole experience has changed my view on it. Thanks for beating it into me. Bravo to the comments. I haven't read you yet. I'm glad you're going to HR about the second women. I understand it's going to be frustrating, but at least you're going to be covering your butt. At the end of the day, your job is your livelihood. Your reputation, as you said really early in your story, is part of your is a part of your livelihood. It's how you make your livelihood. You need to be trusted to believe and believe to do your job. If people are making it hard for that, or people are making this situation uncomfortable, then you can't do your job effectively. If you can't do your job effectively, then at the end of the day, how are you going to be able to do things? You're not. So, from my experience, from my personal, check back, I'm glad that you looked into it. I'm glad you did what you had to do. We're just going to read the top couple of comments because obviously everyone has already told you you're not the asshole. You legit are taking care of yourself and taking care of your future. And sometimes certain people aren't aligned with taking care of their futures, but you're an adult, she's an adult. It's on her to make sure her life is on a good track. Anyways, virtual choir boy said, not the butthole. You do realize you're going to have to go to HR about Kristen's friend, right? Start documenting your interactions with her because it'll snowball quickly if you're not careful. As for dealing with Kristen, you did exactly what you needed to do in order to protect your reputation. In turn, protect your value as an employee to the company. It seems like almost if Kristen suffers from main character syndrome and has now unfortunately discovered the fact that nothing could be further from the truth. Exactly. Exactly. There's no need for you to sit there and worry about what Kristen is doing with her life. Kristen has to understand there's consequences to her actions, and you did nothing wrong. Not the butthole. You did the right thing. She was damaging your reputation, and as her girlfriend said, likely wouldn't have stopped. You had to get out. You had to get out in front of it. Maybe she was mad you weren't interested in her. Maybe she was just toxic. But you aren't at fault anyways. The one person in the office who was her buddy and is mad at you was wrong. But you can't make everybody happy. Move on with your life. That is swell advice. I'd 100% agree with these two people. Again, majority of people are going to tell you you're not the asshole. I would just, follow through with that, make sure you're good. Sorry. And at the end of the day, you have to do what's best with you again. Don't ever think that you're in the wrong. Don't ever think that you're not that person. Um, Sometimes people are assholes, but in this case, you're not. Went to HR, you stood boundaries, you stood on everything. So I'm proud of you. I'm very proud of you. Um, our next story is, am I the butthole for considering leaving my partner because he's not interested in voyeurism? Okay. I've been with my partner going on 2 years. I'm sorry. This is by Mr. 22. I've been with my partner going on 2 years. Been knowing him for about 6 years. Last year of our relationship, I told him I was very interested in being a voyager with him. I was very clear in my intentions, letting him know I did not want an open relationship and to do things outside of him. I want us to mutually engage in sexual things as a couple. I mentioned attending parties together, going to our bookstore and watching or being watched, or even sex in the midst of another couple. I also want to add that we please see each other regularly and that there be no issues at home regarding intercourse. At first, he was very combative and it caused arguments. As months went on, we had real adult conversations regarding it, and he seemed to be open-minded to it. There was about a 4 to 5 month stint where I did not bring this up at all, although it seemed it did weigh heavy on me. I didn't want to pressure him. One random day, I brought it up very nicely and just wanted to know where we stood on it. He said he was also been thinking about it and was going to ask me to attend our local bookstore together, but just didn't do it. Up until that point, I had no knowledge he was even considering it. He didn't make any efforts to initiate those things or even have a conversation with me about it. We left the conversation and still nothing on his end. So our lease is ending in a couple months. I had another conversation with him about 4 weeks from the last one I described, just letting him know that I want to be intentional about the next move and consider that we have not divulged into this realm of our relationship, that I've expressed that I am not sure if signing another lease term together would work for me. Again, another adult conversation regarding it, in which he says, I did reach out to a friend about this just to get perspective. What sounded to me like gaslighting, because why is it always when I bring it up, you've been thinking about this, but no action behind it? I didn't bring this up to point. I didn't bring this point. I didn't bring up this point as not to start an argument. My self-awareness, I knew I would have not delivered it well in the moment. LOL. With 3 months until the lease end, I'm just really starting to have doubts about the future of things. I know that I'm really in love with him as a friend and a partner. The thought of leaving him and all memories and accomplishments, progress behind is super unsettling. However, I also want him and I to be happy, and he says the same thing too. I think we both had conversations along the lines of no matter what, I just want you to be happy. And while we knew what that meant, we didn't want that. For me, I've already unearthed that this is what I want in a relationship with my partner. I guess I'm having a hard time coming to the realization that this season is just up for us for now. Ultimately, I may just have to make the hard decision. Thanks for letting me get that out. All feedback is welcome. You're not the asshole for stating what you want, nor is your partner the butthole for stating what he wants. You guys want to be together, but you have kind of a hard want, and he doesn't seem to want it. And the only reason he says he's thinking about it is because he wants to appease the part of you that he thinks he can appease by just saying, oh, I'm thinking about it, oh, I'm thinking about it. There is no reason in this world that you need justification to leave a relationship. If you aren't happy with any form of relationship, dating, friendship, marriage, parent to child, sibling relationship, you have every right to cut that person off, every right to end the relationship. Should you be an adult about it and express, hey, I don't want to have this relationship with you anymore? Yes. But you have the right to end a relationship, especially a romantic relationship, for any reason. You guys are at two different points in your life, and you want two different things. And it seems to be a hard want for different two different things. You want to be able to do voyeurism, he doesn't want to do it. At the end of the day, if you feel like, man, you can't get past this point, I think it's time for you to end that relationship. I really do think that you should have something that you both are going to enjoy. And at the end of the day, that's what it is. Let's get you comments. Okay. First person is, you will not be the asshole if you break up with him, but you will be the asshole if you stay with him. The dude isn't into your peeping chammy fantasies, so stop trying to make him share your thing. Find some other dude who likes peeping and let this guy go find a girl who's happy enough with what's happening in her own bed. I wouldn't have been rude like that, but yes, this person has a point. You replied, this is true. I'm not going to go down without a fight or at least a compromise. I know the love is there. It's just something I would love to experience with my lifelong partner. But it's not something your partner wants to share with you. You're being an asshole. Do not force this man to follow in with your kink. Because at the end of the day, you're crossing a boundary that he's already verbally established with you. He does not want to do it. Just because you do doesn't mean he wants to. And you should not want him to want something he's not comfortable with. He's obviously not comfortable with it. He obviously doesn't want it. Stop pushing him to do so. Mimi Min Jack said, I'm sorry that it does not sound like you two are not compatible in both wanting to indulge with voyeurism exhibitionism. It sounds as if this option wasn't part of the relationship to start, and over time you discovered that it's essential for you. I don't think he can really be blamed for not wanting to go there, but he should communicate it clearly to you instead of endless hesitating. There's no asshole here. Just sad, just sad that an otherwise good thing will end if both are not on the same page. Good luck. You both just need to have that conversation. You both just need to be able to communicate the fact that you guys want to be together. And at the end of the day, if you're not on the same page, if you're not in the same place, you're not going to have the same expectations. You want voyeurism, he does not. At the end of the day, either you give it up and stay happy in your relationship, or you continue to press him, he resents it, or you don't let it go, you resent him, and then your relationship will break apart. Like the first person said, it seems like you both need to find separate people. He's going to need to find someone who's in love with him and only wants him. And you need to find someone who's in love with you and only wants you, but doesn't mind witnessing somebody else's activities. Or being, part of, or being the activity that someone else watches. You have to do what's best for you, and you can't expect him to want the same things. And if you're not on the same page, your relationship is not going to work, unfortunately. Okay. So, that's my tidbit on it. Okay, on to the next story. The next story is, am I the asshole for wanting to ruin my family over something that happened 10 years ago? Hi. I, 16 female, have been essayed when I was 6 years old by my 26-year-old male older brother, so when he was 16 at the time. Oh. Oh. I'm sorry, that's just gross. That's 100% gross. Anyways. It went on for, if I remember correctly, 3 to 4 days, and then he stopped and started avoiding me since. Since then. Back when I was a child, I did not know what he was doing and thus developed an interest in the human body, began to explore topics like sex and sexuality and stuff. When I turned 15, I suddenly had a big breakdown and meltdown in the living room at 2 a.m. in front of my mother. I cried on her lap and started listing things out of why I wished to end my life. I informed her about the essay during that. I was really hopeful that she'd understand and make measures to make me feel safe and comfortable in my own home. Because even if he stopped the heavy things, he still sometimes touched my thigh or my butt. Yet she only blamed herself and even started to defend my brother, saying he was just a child at the time and was probably curious. To which I replied that he had no reason to do that, and that he was old enough to know that he was what he was doing, yet she kept defending him. She even downplayed my feelings and focused on hers, saying that what I was telling her was hurting her, and that I should think about how this made her feel. The fudge? Ugh, I'm sorry. After this, she took me to two therapists. The first one said the same thing as my mother, saying that he was just a curious child and I should forgive him. I left after the first session and went to another therapist who said the same thing. She said I should find it in myself to forgive him and make up. She did say that I was brave for opening up after so many years because I wouldn't have had to do so. A year later, currently, I brought up the subject again while I was cuddling with Mom and told her to get rid of her son because I didn't feel safe. Because I felt that he did something again even after 10 years. But my mom got mad at me and we got into a fight. I expressed my feelings in details to her, but she kept repeating the same things she said a year ago and she said I'm a horrible daughter for putting this pressure on her. When I said I simply wanted her to defend me, she replied that if I told my experience to anyone else, they would also never be on my side, which isn't true. I said that I only wanted to be comfortable. Now, for context, my mom dotes on my brother more than me or my sister. It's probably because he's her first child, and also because both her and him almost died during the birth, but he's clearly her favorite. She's also trying to buy him an apartment, fund his studies and his trips, and brags about him to the neighbors and friends. My brother is an alcoholic, unemployed, ugly, malnourished, smelly, drug, and porn addict. His room is so disgusting, he literally pisses in plastic bottles and doesn't throw them away so they rot in his bedroom under the bed. He also doesn't clean when he throws up, doesn't shower, and again smells bad. His mannerisms are also weird and creepy. I'm not really sure why she likes him that much, considering he pretty much doesn't respect her either, calls her names, and asks her for money and yells at her. After the fight calmed down, I told my mom even if she's blaming me for not telling her sooner because she can't do anything about it now, I would tell my dad sometimes during the year. I even wrote a letter because I'm deadly afraid of my dad, but he's my favorite, so I know he'd be on my side. But then my mom said I'd ruin the family because if I did that, she'd file for divorce and leave us behind and never contact me again because I'd embarrass and humiliate her. My dad is an ex-military captain. He's pushing 60, but he's still strong, tall, and muscular. If he's mad, he can easily kill someone with his bare hands, and he's very intimidating present. He also strongly loathes my brother and always said that if it wasn't for Mom, he would have thrown him out and left him to rot in the cold. If I tell him that he has saved me, he'd probably kill him. But he wouldn't go to jail because military men's actions are most of the time overlooked in my country. Okay. It's been about 2 months since this whole fight happened. I still think about telling him when I go to university or get an apartment of my own. Because then, if my parents divorce, I'd be old enough to take care of myself. And am I the asshole for wanting to ruin my family? If you don't tell your dad today, tell your dad today. Your mom is not going to protect you. Your brother's going to do it again when he feels like he has enough room and enough protection to do so. You have to think about your younger sister. But mostly think about yourself. You should not be uncomfortable in the home that you live in. Heaven forbid that anything happens to you between now and then. You definitely should not be dealing with this on your own. Hold on a second, y'all. I really think that you definitely need to be telling somebody. You should not be dealing with this on your own. And at the end of the day, you have to take care of yourself. Please, please, go tell someone else. Tell your father, tell, your school shrink, somebody. Because people are going to care. And you didn't do it to anybody else. Your brother did it to you, and your brother's disgusting. Your mother is disgusting. Don't worry about your mom's feeling. Don't worry about how it's going to affect your job or all this other stuff. Take care of yourself. Make sure you're covered. And just be happy. Because at the end of the day, it is what it is. You need to be protected. And there's no way that you're not going to be protected if things aren't going to go your way. That's just it. I don't understand why anyone in their right minds would think that you shouldn't be protected. And I'm not even going to read the comments. Take care of yourself. Tell your dad tomorrow. Don't wait until you're in college or university. Don't wait until you're out on your own. Because if it happens again, you're going to have more trauma. You need to tell somebody and have somebody be there for you. That's just it. That's just it. Okay. We have one more story and then I'm going to go on my merry way, but I will see you guys next time. Um, let's just get into that and oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Okay, the next story is, am I the butthole for blowing up at my husband because he didn't come to see me in the hospital after I was in an accident? No. Now, your husband might not be in the asshole if A, he was physically injured and unable to get to you. B, he was helping somebody else who was physically injured and unable to get to you. But he should have come to see you at some point. But let's get into it. Me, 43, and my husband, John, 54, have been married for 5 years. We have a daughter. I have a daughter, and he has 2 daughters from our previous relationships. A few weeks ago, I was in an accident. Thankfully, it wasn't super serious, but I had bruises, a fractured arm, and had to stay in the hospital overnight. John's kids and one of their boyfriends were in a car wreck last year. Obviously, the hospital let John know that what was going on, and he came over, but he refused to see me until it was time for me to go back home. I was really pissed and hurt about that, and we had a massive fight over it. He said he checked with the doctors to make sure I was fine, and he tried to go in to see me, but froze and couldn't. I said I needed him there with me, but he let his feelings get in the way of my health. It's pretty tense between us now, and my daughter suggested I post here. I've talked to some of my friends about it, and they agree with me. Am I the asshole? If your husband froze, that means there's some type of trauma. There's some type of something blocking him from getting in there. You're not the asshole, your husband's not the asshole, because at the end of the day, if your husband isn't feeling safe, if your husband has some type of PTSD, then it might have just been really hard for him to get in there. But if he didn't come at all, and he's just saying this, then yes, he would be the asshole. But sometimes people have trauma. And yes, you may have needed him there. But some people's trauma can stop them from doing things. And at the end of the day, you're a husband and wife. Yes, you needed him, but yes, he had trauma. So at both parts, you need to be understanding that, his trauma might have stopped him. But he needs to be understanding that you needed him. So meet in that middle, have that conversation, and be together like that. I don't think there are any assholes here if the trauma is true. You had a comment from OK Future 2550. I'm sorry, 5257. I think you need couples counseling. You deserve to have your husband there with you. But if he's got PTSD from his kid's accident, then it's not something he can just turn off. You replied, he has gone to therapy, but I don't know how much has helped, honestly. After the stunt he pulled. Well, that just means he needs longer, but you can't blame him for his PTSD. You can't be upset that he's not feeling his 100, his best. You can't be mad that, he's saying, I can't be there because I can't walk past the lobby. His kids are his world. Yes, you married him, but his kids are his first world. They're all he has outside you. And if something happened to his kids, he's going to want to be there every second. And the fact that he was in an accident or the fact that they were in an accident and he couldn't be there to protect them, that's going to hurt him. That's going to hurt his heart. And at the end of the day, you have to respect that he at least tried to show up and try to be there for you. It's the attempt. And every step further, next time he might make it up to, your room before saying, hey, I can't walk through this door. And then he might be at your bedside table. But it takes time. And if it's less than a year or two ago, that takes trauma is not something that heals. Therapy also takes time. You can't be mad at him because he took his time to heal. and that he's not fully healed. Let your husband continue to go to therapy, but then sit down and have couples therapy and be like, hey, I understand you weren't able to do X, Y, and Z, but now this is how I feel. And have a mediator and get to a place of peace, because you shouldn't be pissed at him because he can't get through into the hospital. And he shouldn't be pissed at you for needing him. So that's just my take on it. But at the end of the day, you're a couple, you'll work on it together, and I hope everything works out between you. We had some very difficult stories today, very traumatizing. I did not expect any of them to go in that direction, but it is what it is. This is your girl, Nisi. I'll see you guys next time.